Ladies and Germans, how you all doing? This is Con Ulrich.
I'm Rangru. Hello, hello, hello.
And folks, do not attempt to adjust your sets. We are going back into history today to go into Steel Division Normandy 44 for a replay on St Mere Eglaise from the Terrible Divisions tournament. Rang, tell us about the setup for this and who's duking it out today.
On the left-hand side in the blue, we have Nilla playing as 101st Airborne. And on the right-hand side in the red, we have Herr playing the 16th Luftwaffe Field Division, Terrible Divisions tournament, ran by in SD44 by Herr. Pretty simple. The opponent picks 3 divisions which you have to play, usually pretty bad ones. Definitely in Herr case. And yeah, it's quite fun to see some SD44 gameplay. And the action is really starting to heat up in the center.
Well, we do have Big Dick there. He's leading from the front, you know, they stand alone and all that, but hopefully he will not be living by himself here. St Mere Eglaise, though, is certainly a hotbed of activity, and not just because there's AB engineers in there. You were laughing about Nilla's pick for Herr. What makes the 16th Luftwaffe so terrible to play in this tournament?
The infantry's mediocre, you don't have many tanks, it's a good division in team games. You can actually make 16 pro craft rel, but 1v1s they are absolutely god awful. And as you can see in the town, yes, you'll dishearten troops who have bundle grenades, which is something at least. You don't have to be entirely motivated for one of those. But when you got a bunch of angry Americans with flamethrowers, it doesn't exactly help you all too much.
No, it doesn't. Certainly when you have a 60 mil firing down on you as well.
It's such lovely mortar play from Nilla, using that to smoke his advance and then bringing fire afterwards. And yeah, it's just going really well. He's completely barreling through the town.
But he still needs to get that 52 as opposed to that 51. He's got just barely that majority. But remember, folks, this is SD44 where everything's made up and the territory matters. And frankly, if you're looking to the north, geez, yeah, no matter where you go, the 101st are definitely screaming across that map. Yeah,
just having all of your infantry being disheartened just sucks in these firefights, especially against AB rifles and engineers, which are very good infantry squads. They're just very well rounded. You can deal pretty much with most threats with AB rifles.
So what would be the only way that 16th Luftwaffe can come back at this? What's the thought process?
Lots of high explosives, like good amount of airstrikes and artillery to blow them up. I'm quite looking forward to see how Herr does pull this off, because I find his anti-air tab as really funny, as it is only just flak 88 apart from one card of 20mm, I believe. I believe the reason he's just taking flak 88 is not so much for the anti-air firepower, but to make up for the lack of anti-tank the rest of the division has.
That definitely would seem to be the opportunity. I mean, we are going to see an off-map artillery definitely potentially start coming down here.
From that
Storch observatory plane, but not to be outdone. I mean, if you're looking over at the 101st, they're not any kind of pansies either with a lot of this. There's definitely a lot of potential here.
Yeah, it's really just in the infantry fights. That's pretty much in the secure am. Good victories, and of course, we don't get a whole lot of tanks, but the same thing as 16th, they're really just dedicated to using roll draw 1 tank and then a few stugs. And not even that much in the anti-tank tab. It's a pretty pathetic division in terms of that regard, in terms of chat build.
True. Now, I am surprised that the artillery got called down on this front line. Part of me would have anticipated going after the mortars, because I feel like, yes, it is not that much fun to be fighting against these AB everythings, but the mortars are where it's really going to hurt you.
Yeah, maybe he can kill or suppress his infantry and move up. I don't really feel like it's going to happen. He doesn't have enough forces here to really take back the town, I feel like. And the mortars are just going to be doing a lot of damage. I do like how far down south Herr is actually putting some pretty decent pressure here, just a little bit of light vehicle and machine gun play, but with that Locust being brought in, I don't think he's going to be able to continue this advance.
Yeah, it does not seem too likely, though most of the HE values, I think, in this game are a little bit underwhelming on both sides of the map.
Yeah, there's not a whole lot. I mean, the Station Million mortars are great at suppression, but yeah, it's not the biggest kaboom. Yeah, I think the flak 88 right now would disagree with you.
Yeah, it's a little harder to defend against shells dropping down all over your head, but look how often he's been taking fire here, and he's still up. Yes, he's lost 60% of the squad, but he's still alive, and that's the important part.
Yeah. You may want to think about falling back into some... Or I'd say cover, but I believe the Flak 88s can't actually go into forest.
Nope, they can't.
Yeah, they can't, because it's SD-44. They didn't invent that technology till they went to the East Front, can.
It doesn't seem that way.
Yeah.
Kind of almost humorously, that anti-aircraft gun gets out of there just in time on the edge of that airstrike, which, you know, artillery strike, but airstrike nonetheless.
It's coming from the air.
It
I know we got
is.
some sort, yeah, the airstrike on the 60 mil, I believe. So actually, pretty good kills. There's only one 60mm mortar left, which he has to concern himself
No,
about.
There's two.
Oh, two? Oh, never
Yeah,
mind.
they're stacked, but these are the ones that have been shelling since the beginning.
Yeah, I see now.
And checking back to the north, I mean, it is a 63-37 right now, so that's a +2 going on over here in favor of Nilla. Not saying it's completely over yet, because, you know, not for nothing, Herr Robert does get a hefty points lead over here in B phase. The question is, can he parlay that into any kind of advantage? Now, your earlier assessment seems to be, no, he's screwed, stick a fork in him, he's cooked. Is there nothing he can do?
The B phase Do-42s would definitely help out Prite Rail, because they're fantastic fire support. I mean, there's a decent amount of artillery in B phase coming as well as air power, so that's definitely a run he's going to have to make it or break it, because he will have a massive income advantage that he can take advantage of, but once we get into C phase, it's not that pretty.
No. I mean, and again, I remember flavor-wise, the whole idea of a C phase over here for the 101st is now we're getting elements of the armored breaking on through, and kind of it was just a nifty kind of thing when it first came back out here.
Yeah.
For me, I'm a little surprised that we're not seeing any mortar play from the Germans.
Oh yeah, you just have a few. I believe you're only 50mm, so I feel like he doesn't have any real good spots to really deploy any 50mm, but hey, who needs mortars when you have the French Rotor 1 Armoured Brigade?
Exactly, and that's the Sicherungs being brought on in right now, the 630s. So yeah, that's a Französisch piece of material there, and regrettably, you gotta think about the fact that there's an awful lot of bazookas over here on the American lines.
Well, their death will probably be a little bit slow, as it's gonna take them 5 minutes to get to the front line.
I think for them, they're just enjoying the trip through the countryside. I think that's why the speed is so low.
You know, the French countryside in the summer, it's a beautiful place.
I've heard. I've only ever been down to the southern part of it, I admit. Transmission damage to the Locust to the south. I've never thought of a pack over here as being a fly swatter, but it definitely has potential.
Indeed. I definitely would need one for my house.
You get a lot of locusts in Canada?
It gets crazy in the prairie sometimes.
I can imagine. Those cicadas got to be big as horses.
Yeah.
But we are seeing another barrage coming down here to the northern side. I am surprised there's been no call over here from even bringing in a single Mustang from Nilla, but I suppose it is an awful big investment, and you want us to continue playing that ground game if you're seeing the success that you are.
Yeah, his one Bofors gun will be enough to force it to fall back. So he should be fine. But yeah, Herr Roberts is in a really nasty spot because he's been pushed completely out of that center town. And it's kind of hard to get close back into it. He needs really a lot of artillery fire. And even if he does get close into it, there's AB engineers here at flamethrowers, which would like to say hello with flamethrowers.
Well, to the north there was maybe half a potential that there could have been a resurgent push over here, but unfortunately, like you said, when a Luftwaffe Jaeger gets held off by a single squad of AB rifles, who engages two separate squads and still fight them to a standstill, not a pretty sight.
Yeah, those Luftwaffe Jaegers are like Grenadiers 0.5 edition. They're just, they have like decent-ish equipment, but their disheartened trait really screws them over. He is using these Hotchkiss-based light armored vehicles, which are actually pretty good, especially against infantry, but without the anti-tank to deal with the M22, yeah, this is gonna be useless.
Well, I kind of forgot that in this was one of the few divisions that ended up getting the Faustpatron, which I know, historically had a little bit less punch over going on.
Yeah.
regrettably, even more so, they only get 2 of them, and since you are so freaked out about everything in your own shadow, it tends to be more of a liability than a help, because you think you have actual viable AT, and you just don't.
Yeah. It shouldn't be too bad against Locusts and Shermans, but yeah, it's still not as good as a Panzerfaust, of course.
A few things are, you know. Call me
Yeah.
an old romantic.
But yeah, the FT-17s finally made it to the front line. A little bit too bunched together, really. You probably want to spread them out a little bit, but I don't know, if it's like a pretty good amount of machine gun firepower, yeah, and there's nothing that Nilla has that can just easily knock him out in the center, so if he was to make a push of infantry, now would be the time.
Well, it is kind of funny, we have ourselves this flying V, or maybe the flying T. As just piece by piece, oh no, and there's a Sherman coming back the other direction, this is not going to be pretty.
Oh no. Not
all
indeed.
Eyes are not on them. So these AB rifles are going to find out the hard way about having 5 different machine guns being levied about them.
Yeah, and there we go, we got the infantry moving up. Yeah, the mortars have been absolutely deadly. Herr Robert's been having a very hard time getting his flak 88s in good position because the 60mm have something to say.
Alright. So the 51 Mustang came on and did a little bit of work over here. Nothing too crazy. I think I'm more fascinated to see what the machine gun brigade can do. Because the Sherman's going to take just a little bit longer to get up here.
So it kills one mortar.
Yeah, exactly. Oh wait, are they both dead? There's no more mortars. The mortars are gone.
There we go. That's definitely going to relieve a bit of pressure here from Herr Robert. I don't believe there's a whole lot of AP engines left, really, including the deck as well. Like, yeah, B-phase is essentially just glider rifles, which is still pretty decent, but a bit more manageable for Luftwaffe Jägers to deal with.
Well, they're not decent. I feel like
Glider rifles?
Yeah.
They're just like big beefy M1 Garand BAM squads, if I recall.
So I was thinking to myself, and I was thinking to myself that maybe we liked them at the time because they gave a nice little extra line of defense for the AB everything else.
Yeah.
But
the M4DD is just completely shredded. Yeah, light tank push. And once again, Herr Robert's game has just been completely pinned down. He just cannot get anywhere close. Just a disheartening trait really screws you over in his long-range fight.
I mean, the Flak 88s are pretty decent. Not perfect, because we have those pack howitzers that are just causing some havoc as well. But we are seeing teeny tiny moments of life over here. I just don't know if that life will be, you know, considerable enough. Oof. Sherman takes a hit from another 88. But I'm not sure is this a nasty corpse just kind of like lashing out over here? Or is this a resurgent, you know, we're coming back to life, don't forget the paddles kind of thing?
This could actually work. I mean, he's still losing by a +2, but the 242 now should be able to give a good amount of fire support to enter into the town at least, and also help with this up north push, as, I mean, it was AB rifles, there's only a limited amount of them. So, I mean, we still have 6 minutes of B phase left, and Herr Robert could make his work, because he still has quite a lot of units in his deck.
Well, and that's the thing. I mean, this isn't like a Panzer Lair division where you have 5 squads of infantry and that's what you got to use the entire time. There's a little bit more meat on these bones. It's just a question of actually using that meat effectively.
Yeah.
Storage back over here to the south, I imagine. A 51 Mustang going after going after that 88.
Well, he's pinned down 188 at least, so gonna be able to get the bombs off.
It completely whips.
Oh.
He actually has to shoot more than anything else.
Yeah. Yeah, I do like how he pinned down one anti-aircraft gun to attack the other, sort of just going in there balls deep. Yeah, Su-42 I think is just going to be really the make it or break it, because it's such a good fire support unit, but if more Shermans or 57mm anti-tank guns are brought in, I mean, it's pretty easy to kill a Stu.
That's true. I mean, you ladle it up a little bit, you serve it in a bowl, put some nice bread on the side. That's how you cook a stew.
That is indeed how you cook a stew, Khan.
Oh, just watch out because these are really high in their aluminum content. In the meantime, though, we are having a potential retaking back of this town. St Mere Eglaise is threatening to change ownership. I'm not sure the Germans can pay the rental prices on this. It's definitely a pretty high kind of, butcher's bill to be paid.
Yeah.
But there's not that many troops left here. In fact, yes, we have an M10 coming in, and we got 3 squads of infantry being rushed to the front. But they might have caught the Americans napping here.
Yeah, we still have some AB engineers left. I feel like that's going to be the one major hurdle that Herr Robert's going to have to deal with. And those AB engineers are in a very good position to just flame anything that gets inside the town.
That's true, but there's only a couple of shrunken squads left of them.
Yeah. Got a bit of smoke, but... I mean, the problem is I believe the Pioneers can't get the grenade off, or they get flamed, and they're very easy to down, as we're going to see in just a second.
Wow.
Yeah.
That was atrocious.
It really was. We also seen a captured, I believe that's a CIS-3 gun being brought as well.
Yes.
So Herr Robert is trying to play a high explosive spam game by using all the static weaponry, because, by God, that's really all you have with 16th Luftwaffe. But the problem is yeah, those pack howitzers are forcing Herr Robert to pack up.
This really does seem to be the case. I think my question here... Okay, they're still AV rifles. I thought perhaps you were going to see those glider troops that you were talking about, but no. There are a couple AV rifles just yet. And this is going for the Bofors. Interesting.
Indeed. We do see a M10 Wolverine being brought in from Nilla, and that's going to be a pretty powerful piece, because that will deny these Stu-42 from moving up any closer for fire support, really.
That will. But he's got to be equally cautious, because he can still get sniped out by the 88, so...
Indeed. He's going to just play the Wolverine pretty defensively.
But again, it's still +2 for him. It's 60-40, and I'm not going to say things are over, but this is not an easy position to be fighting from.
No. No, it's not, and... I mean, he does have a lot of infantry to potentially take that town, but yeah, those AB engineers are just in a nasty spot. And once again, just the artillery from Nilla has really been on point.
Yep, it has been accurate, and it has been often.
Yeah.
I'm just checking it. For the glider rifles, yeah, a single BAR, and then just a bajillion and a half Garands.
Yep. I like pretty decent for just being big and beefy.
Now, the problem is, the Flak 88 is theoretically close enough to start being a direct fire artillery piece, which is very, very strange to say.
Indeed, but that's really what he's gonna have to use. He has a lot of Flak 88s, really his main anti-tank piece and aggressive piece, which, well, it's pretty hard to be aggressive when you have to move. I don't know how many tons it is across an open field. Those German soldiers are definitely getting in their workout.
Actually, no, it's their new version of CrossFit, so I completely understand it,
Just moving around a Flak 88.
Oh, absolutely, goose stepping to the oldies.
Yep, or like having to like push a tiger out of a ditch. I don't think that's even possible.
Pushing a tiger out of a ditch. I think that was the last exercise in Führer's Fury, 10 days to getting iron hard glutes. I might be wrong, but I think that's what it was. It was a weird weekend when I saw that exercise tape. But the Americans are getting pushed back. It is only a couple percentage points at a time, and it ain't going to go much further than that, because we have the pack howitzers are going after the 88, the Stu's right there. We are getting a Ju-188, so he's going to take some firepower here, but I don't know that Bofors is going to survive this. Then again, I forgot how god-forsakenly awful bombing was for anything but the B-26, so...
Yeah, it's also because anti-aircraft guns have like a 50%, like, they take 50% less damage from aircraft bombs, so it makes them quite a bit survivable. It's usually like not a very good idea to bomb anti-aircraft guns, but to be fair, they take more damage and suppression from artillery and other ground fire.
There's a weird dichotomy going on there.
Yeah, it's mainly just a balance thing. Oh, I do like how Herr Robert captured the Jeep supply and now can repurpose the ammunition to his needs.
Let's not try to unpack that any further, but we do have this wedge of Americans now, and actually, is that a WC-25? No, it's an HMG. They're sitting there trying to just put some ground fire out there, and chiefs that Ma Deuce. Luftwaffe Jaegers are not going to get across that field.
Nope. And Herr Robert's trying to do the same thing with his FT-70s, and actually bringing in the Stu, I believe, to probably try to deal with the GMC.
I would not be surprised by that. There is 150mm mortar. And were I Herr Robert, I'd be using that to drop some smoke.
Yes.
Maybe I can get closer. If nothing else, I got to get my Pioneers. Heck, even my Jaegers getting them nice and close. They can use the MP40s, the K98s. There goes the HMG.
Yeah. But Herr Robert's doing like decent. We're into C phase now, of course, and he has taken it down to a +1 at least, to a 54-46. So he is making territory. But it's not going to be enough. Nilla has a massive point advantage. I mean, Herr Robert needs a +4, +5 to really get the victory right now.
I guess, looking at this then, is there any kind of moral victory that can be gained? Yes. Good.
I know, if Herr Robert could just bring us back to a 50-50 or capture the town, I'd give him a pat on the back.
I think he can do it. Easily, not remotely. But I think it's possible.
No, it definitely is if he just uses like Su-42 efficiently, and it's just going from house to house, routing out these American troops. But I know we got like the Wolverine and now Sherman being brought in, and that's definitely going to force us Su-42 to rethink his position. Oh, wow, what killed the Wolverine?
I know, I looked away to the back lines for half a second. I could not tell you.
What the hell?
Oh, no, you know what I think it was?
What?
It wasn't Pack 40. No, Pack 40...
No, it doesn't have line of sight. Oh, right, I think it does, yes. It's just like a very tight angle through...
But it hasn't used any of its ammo. It's only used HE.
No, the other run. It's used like 33 out of 45. The one with 4 guys left. 3-star veterancy. That one had just the angle. Oh, yeah.
That's a Flak 88.
Yeah, the Flak 88.
Okay, I thought the Pack 40, but never mind.
Oh, no, my bad.
That's okay. So yes, I will think that the Americans might take this one. I just feel that, frankly, the 16th, it's awfully hard to fight back against. You're against an elite division in the first place. They're airborne. So the infantry game, especially in St Mere Eglaise, had this been a more open-up map, you might have been able to get away with it as a 16th Luftwaffe, but the close-enough fighting always favors airborne troops.
Yeah, on a more open map, you can just spam those 88s like Robert has in his deck and just try to use them as a good fire support to snipe Shermans at long range and all of that good stuff. But this should be a very good lesson, guys, that I think everyone should know by now is 16th Luftwaffe is terrible in 1v1s. Probably one of the worst German 1v1 divisions to play, I believe, and it's a pretty good example on why that is.
Oh, don't worry. I'm sure we'll see 352nd before too much longer.
At least all our infantry is not disheartened, just half of it.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
But they think tanks are something that happened to somebody else, or that's what you say to somebody when they do something nice for you. So,
yeah,
kind of hard to really be in their corner. I do have to applaud Nilla's artillery play.
Yeah.
It's
the
just...
initial smoke was perfect.
True. True. And I'm just looking at this overall, if I feel like Herr Robert could have done anything possibly a little bit better, the counter battery play should have been a little bit more active than what it was. But of course, I mean, when you have God vision, it's easier for us to kind of make that comment, so...
Yeah. I definitely think the 16th is really bad. Yeah. Especially on this sort of matchup, it did not help Herr Robert at all.
Well, I guess let's theorycraft for a second. Is there anybody the 16th Luftwaffe would be good against? Other than the 16th Luftwaffe?
I feel like it'd be decent against 101st if it was more open map, just because you can take advantage of the 88s, but for the most part, no, it's just, your infantry is just not very good when you're having to engage in these, like, infantry fight trivia, which is what you usually do when you have infantry.
Yowza, this 356 off map has just absolutely shellacked that center position for Herr Robert.
Yeah.
Like, I just feel bad for them, good gosh. Town, in the meantime, getting pounded by some of its own firepower here. For the JU-188. One more barrage is being called on in, but I think that Herr Robert is just going to tap out and save the life of his men. Yep, there we go.
That is a good game, and that was actually really... Herr Robert got more kills. What?
Yeah, but you got to think about the things he was killing, because if you're looking at killing, a DD tank, for example, that already is more expensive than most of his equipment. As well as, if you look at the infantry fights, every time it takes on an AB anything, he's winning at least 5 points on that.
Yeah, those AB rifles, just the ABs in general, were doing lovely work.
They certainly were.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of 16th Luftwaffe stuff is pretty cheap, so that's probably why he had the point advantage.
Well, if you look at the ones who didn't have the point advantage, like Trumpish over here, the Flak 88, 2 kills, and he's got 2 ground pounders that he killed. Stu's got 4 kills by himself. I mean, Pioneers have a couple kills. You have guys who more or less stand out, but every single time you look at one of these things, find me a line on here where it doesn't trade up from the German side.
Yeah. And just looking at history, like,
the
first 5 minutes, Herr Robert didn't manage to kill a single unit. It wasn't until, like, 5:44 where he killed one mortar. That's pretty much explains the match, right? Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, Phase 8 explains the match pretty much overall. There's 4 dead, 5 dead from the American side, and everything else is red. So.
Yeah.
But regardless, I dare say we are coming back with some more Terrible Divisions play, I think, later this week. Is that correct, sir?
Indeed, we are.
So, folks, you won't want to miss more god-awful, SD44 divisions. I guess, until that time, though, I'm Con Ulrich.
I'm Rangaroo, take it easy.